retiring. She complained of a loss of enthusiasm and excitement about her trading, as well as weight gain and more negative feelings about herself. She had seen 3 prior coaches and therapists, all to no avail. After a short discussion, I obtained enough information to suggest that she obtain a blood workup from her primary care physician. She did so, and the results suggested a low level of thyroid activity. Once she received proper hormonal supplementation, her mood and energy level returned, her concentration improved, and she resumed her successful career. How many traders lose their careers because they never understand the patterns that underlie their problems? You might ask the question, how can I, as a trader, relatively uneducated in applied psychology, ever hope to identify obscure patterns such as low hormone levels? If experienced coaches and counselors miss the pattern, how can I detect it? Ironically, I think that you're in better shape than most commercial coaches to identify and act upon unusual patterns that interfere with good trading. I could readily make the recommendation for the trader because I was not seeking her business. She was not paying me for my services, and I did not stand to gain by making one recommendation versus another. Note, my coaching is limited to a limited group of proprietary trading firms, hedge funds, and investment banks. I don't take on individual traders as clients. Most coaches who focus on retail traders, on the other hand, need to constantly drum up business. It is not in their self-interest to raise a possible course of action, such as blood tests and thyroid medication, that doesn't lead to further services and additional fees. As a result, they focus on solutions that they can provide, i.e., that will bring them additional business. When all you have is a hammer, Maslow once remarked, you tend to treat everything as nails. As your own trading coach, you have no such conflicts of interest. You can learn pattern recognition for yourself and diagnose your own concerns. If the problem still eludes you, even after you've reviewed your journal extensively, send an email to the special address reserved for this book, coachingself@aol.com, see the conclusion, and I will do my best to point you in a promising direction. But I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to find how readily you can tackle your own challenges once you learn a few basic techniques. Once you learn to coach yourself, you have the skills to guide your development across a lifetime. So let's see how you can become expert in recognizing your own patterns, building on the trading journal described in the previous lesson. Reviewing your journal entries, you want to divide them into 2 clusters, those describing your most successful trading and those that capture when you were trading at your worst. The first cluster will reveal what we call solution patterns. The second cluster alerts you to problem patterns. Many times, the difference between the solution and problem patterns will themselves point you to practical actions you can take to improve your performance. For instance, you might notice that during your successful trading, you're more patient entering trades and take fewer trades, each with smaller size. When you're less successful, you trade more often and with maximum size. The comparison between best and worst trading will also alert you to differences in your coping with market challenges. You may find, for example, that when you're trading well, you tend to be very problem-focused. When you are less successful, you trade while you are confused or frustrated, without waiting for clearly defined opportunity. The key is to look for patterns, not just isolated instances of good or poor trading. For each good day of trading, you might jot down several things you did right, and then see which entries appeared day after day. Similarly, in reviewing the poor trading days, you would write down the key mistakes you made and observe which ones appear over time. Your trading strengths can be found in the patterns that repeat across successful trades. If you cannot find patterns that stand out, you may need to monitor your trading over a longer period so that you have a rich sample of good and poor trading days. You are looking for common elements that jump out at you. Don't be too quick to read subtleties into the patterns. The best things to work on are the ones that are most salient, that hit you between the eyes. For instance, when I have done the pattern recognition work and compared my best and worst trading, I found stark differences in the sizing of my trades. Initial positions neither too large nor too small performed best. The timing of the trades, positions too early in the morning or later in the afternoon, underperformed those made after the market sorted itself out in the first minutes of trade. And the duration of my trades, better performance when held shorter with clear targets and stops. I also found that I traded best when I had a clear, longer-term picture of the market to guide shorter-term entries and trades. My absolute worst trading occurred when I held a strong view at the start of the market day and did not modify the view as the day progressed, continuing to trade against a market trend. Notice how each of these patterns focuses a trader on what to change, which is the first step in deciding how to make changes. Many times, traders fail to make changes because they aren't clear on what to change. They rely on vague generalizations, "I need to be more disciplined," rather than identify specific behaviors to work on. By conducting detailed comparisons between your best and worst trading, you can find a focus for your self-coaching efforts and channel your energies in the most constructive directions. If you know your patterns, those that bring you success and failure, you're generally halfway home in making lasting changes. Below are some patterns to be especially aware of as you review your journal. Emotional patterns. Distinct differences in how you feel when you're trading well and when you're trading poorly, particularly before and during trades. Behavioral patterns. Notable differences in how you prepare for trades and manage them during your best and worst trading episodes. Cognitive patterns. Meaningful differences in your thought processes and concentration level during and after your best and worst trades. Physical patterns. Differences in how you are feeling, your energy level, physical tension and relaxation, and posture when you're trading at your best and worst. Trading patterns. Differences in the sizing of trades, times of day when you're trading, mode of entering and exiting trades, and instruments being traded as a function of good versus poor trading. Coaching cue. Many times you'll observe more than one kind of pattern, and many times those patterns will be linked. For example, your cognitive patterns may lead to particular emotional patterns, which are then linked to specific trading patterns. Think of patterns in sequence, as a kind of positive or negative cascade, not as either-or phenomena. Excellent coaches see not only patterns, but also patterns of patterns. Here are some of the most common patterns among traders to watch out for. Placing impulsive, frustrated trades after losing ones. Becoming risk-averse and failing to take good trades after a losing period. Becoming overconfident during a winning period and taking more marginal and/or unplanned trades. Becoming anxious about performance and cutting winning trades short. Oversizing trades to make up for prior losses. Ignoring stop-loss levels to avoid taking losses. Working on your trading when you're losing money, but not when you're making money. Becoming caught up in the market action from moment to moment rather than actively managing a trade, preparing for a next trade, or managing a portfolio. Beating yourself up after losing trades and losing your motivation for trading. Trading for excitement and activity rather than to make money. Taking trades because you're afraid of missing a market move rather than because of a favorable risk-reward profile for your idea. Lesson 33. Establish costs and benefits to patterns. A huge step forward for traders who seek to mentor themselves is to know the patterns of behavior, thought, and emotion associated with successful and unsuccessful trading. Still, it is necessary but not sufficient to produce lasting change. This is because knowing a pattern is different from having and sustaining the motivation to alter that pattern. It is in the motivational arena that many of our change efforts, personal and professional, fall short. We need only to look at the dismal record of people's attempts to diet, eat in healthy ways, or exercise regularly to see that knowing what you need to do and actually doing it are two different things. When you are your own trading coach, your challenge is to motivate change, just as a sports coach motivates a team to keep them working hard and sustaining practice efforts. If keeping a journal and tracking your patterns of good and bad trading is nothing more than a routine exercise, another item on a to-do list, it will not inspire motivation, and you will not sustain the efforts. Stoking the desire to make changes is difficult, especially when trading is going reasonably well. If it ain't broke, don't fix it is a formula for eventually lacking fixes when things do break. But there's a more important reason for sustaining self-coaching efforts. When you're trading well is precisely the time you want to be the most self-aware of your strengths, so that you can maximize your earnings at those times. The true competitors and most successful participants in sport, warfare, and games of skill such as chess are the ones who possess the killer instinct. They have a sense for when they have the advantage, and they press that advantage to the hilt. Making modest money when you are trading well is a great way to ensure poor returns when you're not seeing markets as well. For many traders, it's the relatively few large gains from the best trading periods that contribute most to overall profitability. The measure of self-coaching is how hard you work on trading when you're making money. It's as important to work on yourself when you're trading well as when you're trading poorly. It's not that you want to fix what isn't broken, rather you want to crystallize what you're doing right so that you can do more of it and capitalize fully on it. Conversely, when you're trading poorly, you don't want to lapse into discouragement and defeat. Maintain the journal and the pattern recognition efforts to keep you in a constructive mode, even when all you may be able to do for the moment is to cut your risk when your negative patterns surface. That is still progress. So how do excellent traders and competitors in any field sustain the motivation to operate at elite levels of performance? An important driver of that motivation is an intense competitive drive and a ferocious desire to win. The traders I've worked with personally who have been consistent high earners have traded quite differently and viewed markets in radically different ways. Some traders have been loud and outgoing, others have been cerebral. Some have been uncannily intuitive, others have been analytically insightful. The common feature among all of them, however, has been their intense competitive nature. They compete against peers, they compete against markets, most of all, they compete against themselves. They derive pride and validation not just from making money, but also from getting better, which is what keeps successful traders in the game long after they could have retired comfortably. The lesser traders, they trade to not lose. They trade to keep their jobs. They don't hunger to become more than they are. They want to do well, not to be their best. The drive for self-improvement is different from the desire to make money and is far more rare. These successful traders can sustain their drive by staying mindful of the costs of their negative patterns and the benefits of their positive ones. When a successful trader decides to avoid a particular trade or market, it's often because of a specific recollection that this idea has caused past losses. By staying emotionally connected to the pain created by their worst trading, traders stoke their motivation to avoid trading mistakes. Similarly, knowing their strengths is not just an abstract awareness for successful traders, but an emotional connection to the pride and sense of accomplishment over doing well. A best practice in self-coaching and a great assignment for this lesson is to not only summarize the patterns of your best and worst trading, but to actually write down and visualize the costs associated with the most negative trading patterns and the benefits that accompany the best patterns. In other words, you don't finish your journaling until you achieve a state in which you are emotionally connected to the things you are writing about. You will want to change your negative patterns when you get to the point of hating those patterns and becoming disgusted with the ways in which they've set you back. You'll want to build on your positive patterns when you see and feel their benefits. When you're coaching yourself well, journaling is an emotional exercise, not merely a cognitive one. There is little to be gained from abstract positive thinking. Reciting such affirmations as, "I will be a successful trader," is empty at best, self-delusional at worst. The reason such positive thinking doesn't work is that it is not connected to the day-to-day conduct of your trading. It's not enough to simply make yourself feel good, and indeed there can be real value in feeling so bad that you'll never repeat a mistake again. What is helpful is to associate the best emotional experiences of trading, your greatest moments of joy and achievement, with the specific practices that brought you such happiness. It is also tremendously helpful to recreate the pain of your worst trading with concrete vows to never go there again. Think of football, basketball, and tennis coaches. Every practice session teaches skills, offers feedback, and supplies motivation. It's not a bad formula for self-coaching as well. You are most likely to change a negative thought or behavior pattern when you associate it with concrete costs and consequences. You're most likely to motivate a positive behavior by attaching it to specific, felt benefits. Coaching cue. Efforts at self-change break down when people start to make exceptions and allow themselves to revert to old ways. To accept exceptions, you have to accept the old negative patterns. It's when our old patterns become thoroughly unacceptable that we are most likely to sustain change. When you keep a journal, you want to cultivate an attitude, not just jot down bloodless summaries of what you do. If you don't see plenty of emotion words in your journal, constructively expressed, the odds are that your journal will summarize your changes but not motivate them. Lesson 34. Set effective goals. Successful coaching requires a focus for change. Many self-help efforts among traders fail because they are unfocused. One day the trader writes in a journal about position sizing and works on that. The next day, he emphasizes emotional control, and the following day he stresses taking losses quicker. By jumping from one focus to another, no single direction is sustained. This is problematic because most learning does not occur all at once. We know from research that learning typically requires many trials and considerable feedback. If we think about important skills that we've learned, from using a computer to driving a car, we can see that trial and error has been the norm. I can study a map of a new city for a long time and learn quite a bit, but I ultimately only learn to find my way around by driving on various roads, following signs, getting lost, and recognizing landmarks. If we pursue this learning intentionally, organizing our trials over a concentrated period of time, with immediate feedback throughout, we can greatly shorten our learning curves. It's easier to learn to play a piano by practicing every day and taking lessons every week than by engaging in occasional efforts spread over years. The training of an Olympic athlete is a study in proper skill development. Intensive work on specific aspects of performance, accompanied by plenty of coaching feedback and corrective efforts. When we lack a specific focus for change and jump from one trading goal to another from day to day, we don't really enter a learning curve. There is nothing cumulative in our efforts. As your own coach, you need to establish, and also sustain, a specific direction to guide your growth and development. This is the key to effective goal setting. If motivation provides the energy for self-improvement, goals supply the aim, the channeling of that energy. When you recognize a problem pattern, it is not the same as establishing a goal for self-work, though the former usually will guide the latter. A problem pattern alerts you to what you're doing wrong. Goal setting requires an awareness of new patterns of thought, feeling, and/or action that will replace the problem pattern. A goal states what you are going to do or not do in specific situations. If you have constructed your trading journal and pattern identification exercises in the ways suggested in recent lessons, many of your goals will naturally follow from the patterns associated with your best trading. Your overarching goal will be to trade in the way that you typically trade when you're trading well. Notice that I am defining goals in a process sense, rather than as absolute outcomes. This is very important. Many traders think of such goals as making $1 million or being able to trade for a living. These outcome goals may be motivating and definitely have their place, but they do not focus a trader on what she needs to do today and tomorrow to become better. Traders on a short time frame do not have full control over their outcomes. A trader can make good decisions, placing all odds in their favor, only to lose money when markets behave in an anomalous fashion. What traders can control is the process of trading, how they make and implement decisions. The most effective daily goals emphasize trading well, not making oodles of money. The same logic guides athletic coaches. A coach may stress the goal of victory over the next opponent, but the day-to-day practices will emphasize such fundamentals as swinging at good pitches, baseball, making the extra pass, basketball, and blocking effectively on running plays, football. These process goals provide the ongoing focus for practice over time and ensure that coaching leads to effective learning. Every coach is, at root, a teacher. When you're your own coach, you guide your own learning efforts. Effective goals target effective trading practices that break trading down to component skills and then set targets for these one at a time. As you examine your journal entries for the patterns that distinguish your best and worst trading, The question you want to ask is, what is the difference that will make the greatest difference in my trading? Stated otherwise, your question is, what are the 1 or 2 ways I can trade more like my best trading and less like my worst trading? The answer to these questions will form the basis for your best process goals and will guide your self-development efforts from day to day and week to week. Goals should not be so specific that they only apply to a limited set of circumstances. I want to be a market buyer when put-call ratios hit 100-day highs. And they should not be so broad or vague that they don't guide concrete actions. I want to trade less often. The best goals are ones you can work on every day for a number of weeks. If you do not work on a goal day after day for at least several weeks, it's unlikely that you will turn your new patterns into positive habits. As mentioned earlier, you don't want to focus on too many goals at once. I've generally found 3 to be as many as I can work on with consistent intensity, and many times I will focus on fewer objectives. This means that a good self-coach will prioritize needed changes, emphasizing those differences that will most make a difference. A great exercise to try is to close your eyes and imagine yourself as a great trader. Visualize yourself as the best trader you can possibly be, or maybe visualize an absolutely perfect trading day. What are you doing differently from your usual trading when you're the great trader? How is your trading different on the perfect day than on a poor one? In your visualizations, try seeing yourself doing all the right things when you're trading well. What are you doing? How are you doing it? Those visions, made highly specific, will form the backbones of your goals. Coaching cue. Make it a point to get to know successful traders who have had plenty of market experience. Many times you can form effective goals by simply trying to emulate their best trading qualities. Lesson 35. Build on your best. Maintain a solution focus. To this point, the lessons in this chapter have emphasized the importance of tracking the patterns associated with both your trading shortcomings and your trading successes. It is common to focus on the former only. When we use coaching to build strengths, rather than simply shoring up weaknesses, that solution focus produces surprising, and surprisingly rapid, results. For more on the solution-focused approach to change, check out The Psychology of Trading. There are several reasons why a solution focus is helpful for traders who seek to coach themselves. Motivation. It is easier to stay motivated and optimistic when we emphasize what we're doing right, not just where we fall short. Imagine a sports coach who only harped on players' weaknesses. Over time, that would be demoralizing. When the focus is strengths, coaching can be empowering and inspiring without ignoring changes that need to be made or the urgency of making those changes. Goal setting. Knowing what you've done wrong in and of itself does not tell you what you need to do right. When you focus on your best trading, you can identify specific patterns that are associated with your success and turn these into concrete goals for future work. Bang for the buck. Working solely on improving weak areas is unlikely to create strengths. At best, you'll take a deficient area and bring it to average. It's making the most of strengths and learning how to work around shortcomings that produces optimal performance results. One of the reasons I emphasize the importance of paper simulation trading and playing with different trading styles and markets is that this experience enables you to observe your own strengths firsthand. Many times, traders stumble across their performance niches when they discover something they're good at. If you don't know your strengths, it's unlikely that you'll be able to systematically build on them and turn them into drivers of elite performance. But you might wonder, how do I stay solution-focused if day after day I'm in a slump and losing money? It is difficult to stay connected to our strengths when our failings are written all over our P&L summaries. We've seen that this question is a particular challenge when we identify winning days as good trading and losing days as bad trading. This thinking makes it difficult to observe and appreciate good trading when we're not making money. But traders can trade well. They can take setups with demonstrated edges, size positions well, and manage the risk of their trades, even if trades happen to go against them. After all, even a 60-40 edge per trade ensures that a trader, over time, will have sequences of consecutive losing trades and/or days. If you define good and bad trading in terms of process, not just outcome. You can observe strengths during performance slumps, and also you can detect flaws even when you're making money. To keep yourself solution-focused, you want to ask yourself, what did I do well today? What about this trade did I do right? You'll find that over time, your performance is varied. Not all trades are poorly conceived, poorly executed losers. If you lost less today than the past several days, what did you do better? If you had a number of winning trades during several losing days, what distinguished those winners? Focus on the improvements in your trading and then isolate the specific actions you took to generate those improvements. These actions can be meaningful additions to a daily to-do list. What did I do better this week than last week is a great starting point for guiding next week's efforts. Do more of what works. It's the essence of the solution focus. Another technique for sustaining the solution focus, referenced at the end of the last lesson, is to identify a mentor or trader you respect and ask yourself how he would be trading a particular idea. Sometimes it is very helpful to try out solution patterns that you borrow from others. Over time, you adapt these patterns to your own ways of thinking and trading so that they become distinctly yours. For example, I've worked with quite a few hedge fund portfolio managers and have learned from them the importance of thinking thematically about markets, observing various sectors and asset classes, and creating narratives that guide a longer-term perspective. The specific themes I track and the time frames I monitor are completely different from theirs, but there is a similarity of process. When I'm not trading well, I can model their processes and place myself more in line with market's trends. Still, another way to keep the solution focus is to make special note of mistakes that you don't make in your trading. These notes represent exceptions to problem patterns. If there's a mistake you've made lately, it helps to hone in on occasions when you haven't made the mistake. What are you doing differently at those times to avoid the mistake? Perhaps you're anticipating the problem and consciously doing something different. Maybe you're avoiding the mistake by following a particular rule or practice. Whatever helps you do less of the wrong things can also form the basis for solutions. Look to situations in which you don't make your worst mistakes. Many times, those situations hold the key to avoiding problem patterns more consistently. The real power of the solution focus is that when you discover what you do during your best trading, those positive patterns are uniquely yours. Instead of ceding the role of expert and guru to others, you're turning yourself into your own guru by finding the best practices that are unique to you. You become your own role model. This is one of the most promising facets of self-coaching. By discovering who you are at your best, you can create goals that are specific, unique, and relevant to you. The learning, as a result, will be more relevant and empowering, reinforcing strengths as you build them. A great assignment is to review your trading journal and assess the ratio of problem entries, writings about your bad trading, to solution entries, writings about what you're doing best. If the ratio is lopsided in favor of the problem focus, consider structuring your writing to force yourself to address a few basic questions. What specifically am I doing best in my recent trading? How specifically am I avoiding old trading mistakes when I'm trading well? How specifically am I trading like my idea of the ideal trader during my best trading? A good sports coach never loses sight of a player's potential, even when correcting weaknesses. The challenge of self-coaching is never losing sight of your strengths, and then working daily on how you can maximize them. Coaching cue. We have solution markets as well as solution patterns of behavior, specific markets and market conditions that facilitate our most successful trading. Knowing these intimately is very helpful in allocating risk to your trade ideas. It can also be helpful in staying out of certain kinds of trades and emphasizing others. Lesson 36. Disrupt old problem patterns. As you continue your journaling over a period of weeks or longer, you will become attuned to your problem patterns. Usually, a trader does not have 10 different problems. Rather, he may have 1 or 2 problems that manifest themselves in 10 different ways. For instance, a trader may grapple with missing good trades, occasionally ignoring stop-loss levels, sizing positions too conservatively, and cutting winning trades too quickly. These examples may seem like different problems, each requiring a different coaching plan and process. As the trader examines his or her journals, however, they're likely to find that a single problem pattern, anxiety related to negative self-talk, is responsible for all of these. It's not that the trader has many problems, though it may certainly feel that way. It's that there is a single core problem that affects many aspects of the trading process. As you can see from the above example,